This is a hunt that unfolds around a farm that we got access to just prior to actually summertime. We had no idea what we were facing for deer inventory. We really didn't. So we blanketed the whole farm with cameras, and that's where we started to lay the foundation for this hunt at. We found this deer in particular that Bridger named Scandal that was a very territorial deer. All of the pictures we had were of him in a very tight core area going out to the same food source to eat all the time. In this scenario, we'd actually seen this deer in the morning, and we had made a change in our setup based on where he was going up to bed. He was going into a drainage where he didn't really have an option to lay any other area than about a 100-yard stretch where he had the wind at his back and could see out in front of him. That little bit of information of seeing him earlier is what really got us the opportunity at him, because when we went in and slid and hung the stand only just a couple 100 yards down, we knew he would be coming out to feed, and we knew he would have those does and be very concerned with those does. So the whole setup, the whole calling sequence was all built around all the knowledge that we had from not just that day, but the trail camera photos as well. So here's an example of whenever we hit that first contact grunt and get his attention. It seems like we get attention quicker that way, and then we hit a longer, deeper grunt that shows a more older, a more mature buck in the scenario or in the mix that he needs to be concerned about. I've done that by doing two things. In the short contact grunt you heard first, I've got it slid up, and it's, you know, in most cases just slightly above where it says buck on there. And then I slide it down deeper, about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm gonna cup a lot harder around the grunt call and then blow with the same amount of volume. The subtle differences, but that's the difference between a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Oftentimes people overcall, and by overcall I don't mean just blowing on the call repeatedly. They'll put too much volume into a call. You have to remember that just like their senses are with their nose, they have the same sort of auditory abilities versus a human. So when you're blowing on call really deep and loud, unless it's in a really windy environment to make sure that they hear you, you need to tone it down some. So when you're blowing on it, make sure you keep that volume light, and as long as you have an acknowledgement from that deer where his ears are either twisting back towards you or he's made a turn towards you or squared up to you, then you know that your call is being effective and there's no reason to go any louder with the volume of that call. You'll see a lot of cues that they'll give you, from the hair standing up on the back of their neck, they're licking their nose, where their ears are pointed, their head posture, their body posture, the way that they move their tail. All those things are very important to understanding what you need to do next as a caller, or creating the illusion that you're another deer that's in their territory. The whole basis may have been originally to keep a call from freezing, which is super awesome, but this little slider on here is a major tool in changing that depth and tone and keeping the same volume no matter what it is that you want to do with vocalization. That's why I use that extinguisher. Once this deer turns to walk away, you'll hear one more grunt from me. And I only do one more and then I quit. This deer's already made a decision to leave. There is absolutely no reason to call that deer anymore. He knows we're down there, and if he's leaving, it's because there's another scenario that's unfolding that we don't know about. And in this case, there were does that were bedded above him that he was really concerned with and was circling back around to check on those. Once we saw the does come down out of that drainage that he had walked back up into, then we knew that the situation was about to unfold in which we may or may not have to call, and we decided not to call as soon as we saw Scandal come down and actually get really aggressive, tearing up a scrape. And the key is, at this point, once you see a deer becoming that aggressive, the scenario has already been laid out where Bridger and I are a mature buck that are on the other side of these does that are rolling down into a cornfield that are going to go right by us. And that scenario of all those deer down in front of him, given the fact that there's a mature deer he believes on the other side of those does, is causing him to go into a complete panic state. He's really concerned that somebody else might be taking over his territory. What's really cool in this next little sequence as he's approaching us is it gives you a great visual of what was happening up above that you couldn't see on the camera, where this buck was really corralling and protecting those 3 does that were his from the mature buck that we had alluded to earlier with our calling. The does actually come into the frame above him, and he gets super concerned and starts to go around and cut those does off, because what he's trying to do is keep those does away from us. It's very similar to a bull elk at this time of the year when he's trying to guard his harem. That's what this buck is doing, just from a whitetail perspective. I think a lot of folks get frustrated this time because they see that deer kind of angling away, but he starts making a scrape, and that's a definite assurance. Again, this is the second time he did this in front of us. It's a display of aggression. So at this point, all we're doing is really trying to watch those does, and Bridger is looking for his shooting lanes constantly, because the next opportunity he gets may be as close as 10 yards, it may be 20 yards out, but he's got to identify his shooting lanes, because remember, we just threw this tree stand up, climbed up in it, and hunted it. We didn't have a lot of time to clear out a lot of brush out of the way to set this all up.
Smoked him.
Nice job, dude.
Nice, buddy.
There's nothing more exciting than watching somebody who has been through a lot of the process of prepping a farm or prepping a hunt and then seeing them successful. It's a really good time, it's a really good feeling, and there's just nothing quite like watching that deer walk right into that shooting lane.
We quietly snuck in, got a whole set hung up, and crawled in there this afternoon about 3 o'clock, and I couldn't be more happier.
So the lessons that are to be learned from a hunt like this, there's really 3 key points that you should take away from this. One is, we learned this deer's behavior through not only just the trail camera pictures we have, knowing that he's a localized deer, we learned throughout the time period that we've seen him the couple of times before we've actually got a shot opportunity at him, that he was very territorial. 2, you also want to keep in mind as you're calling during this time of year that as those bucks are approaching your stand, whatever your target buck is, especially when there are other deer involved, you're constantly watching their visual cues that they're giving you, and auditory if they're grunting like he did a couple times subtly. You have to watch for those to understand where he's at in his thought process. And then 3, you need to make sure that you keep your patience and keep your head about you and don't get overly excited, because had we grunted once this deer was in that 20-yard area or so, whenever we were in that shooting time frame where we had opportunities, there's a good chance either he or one of the other deer could identify us. And it's just having the patience, let things unfold, and things will come together. Lots of people get too frustrated and too excited, and you just gotta be patient during this time of year.
Want to experience the same results you just witnessed? Use what the Deer Society experts use. The Extinguisher Deer Call and Black Rack Rattling System are the highest rated deer communication systems of all time, and less than 1% of deer hunters will have the opportunity to buy one this season. Get yours today at thedeersociety.com. Order now.